Nate Dogg was just, man, he's just amazing.
Nate would understand and he'll dissect and then he'll put the vibe to it as a classic.
Mine doesn't. Nate Dogg funk.
Yeah.
When he jumps in that booth, everybody's paying attention, kills it every single time, but just such a dope demeanor about himself. Cool, calm, collected. And I want to show what Nate Dogg can do before I do remakes and all that other stuff. I want to do what Nate, show what Nate Dogg can do. I want to be able to have people remaking Nate Dogg songs first. I'm a huge Nate Dogg fan, man.
He used to, like, just, I guess you could say, try to bully me. You know what I mean?
Who are some of the singers that inspired you growing up?
Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, the ones that, all the bombers, the ones you listen to still to this day.
Right.
That started when they was kids and they still hanging around right now handling their business.
Hey, Dwayne, what's up, man? Hey, you stopped taking my calls and my steering wheel came off.
That's the protective I was on, because I knew we had something. We just had to take time to try to get put on.
I just want my money back, and don't make me have to get the whole dog pounding to get it back.
Nate had a temper. Okay.
And if you think I'm playing, I'll take your tie and your woman. She's looking real attractive right now.
Nate recognized that he had two sides to himself. And the way he described it to me is that, Rod, I got an angel on this shoulder and a devil on this shoulder.
You don't want to get Nate hot.
When he drank, he would start tripping out. They would call him, his trip out name was Buddy Love.
Nate Dogg was cool, but when Buddy Love came out, it was a whole different beast. Lord have mercy.
Nate Dogg had then 5 Taco Bell robberies on camera. I paid $250,000 to get beat before he won't go to prison.
Man, I've never been to Death Row Studios without my gun. Never knew what to expect.
I seen Nate putting on a bulletproof vest, and I'm like, hold on, player, what we going to the studio or gonna go to Iraq? What's up?
And the boy said something to him, and Nate knocked him out.
I was like, man, you can't just run up in nobody's house and put hands on nobody, man. They can sue you, man, and you can go to jail. He was drunk, you know.
He'd get 3 bottles of Hennessy. 1 bottle was to sit in a limo for everybody else. Other bottle, he's put behind the seat when he leaves the club. The other bottle, he opened right there and started drinking at the house.
Me and my wife went to go visit him, and my wife had said something to him. She was like, I thought you said you broke up with her. And he was like, nah, I can't break up with her yet. I still love her. And I didn't know what the hell they was talking about. Then I looked down, and there was a bottle of Hennessy right by his leg. And I'm like, okay.
Rapper Nate Dogg passed away yesterday at the age of 41. He died due to complications of a stroke he suffered back in 2007.
August 19, 1969, Clarksdale, Mississippi. A kid by the name of Nathaniel Dwayne Hale was born second to 3 children into a household with strong religious values. His father, Daniel Hale, was a Baptist minister, while his mother, Ruth Holmes, led the church choir. Love for music ran deep in the family, and before Nate got a taste for hip-hop, the foundation for his groundbreaking sound was laid by gospel music. When Nate was about 5 years old, he was already in a group with 2 of his siblings named Sam, Pam, and Buddy. Buddy being Nate's childhood nickname, singing together in their mom's kids' choir at Life Baptist Church in Mississippi and later at New Hope Baptist Church in Long Beach. According to his family, Nate absolutely loved singing and was heavily invested in getting a little bit better each day. With such strong roots, music wasn't only confined to the church and often filled their home, but not without any restrictions. Being a pastor's son naturally meant that only gospel music could be played in the house, while all of the other genres, including hip-hop, were strictly forbidden. However, this one-dimensional exposure to music wouldn't last. After his parents filed for divorce, at the age of 14, Nate moved to California, more specifically to Long Beach, where his exploration of other genres began.
The new sound of the 80s. Suddenly you hear it everywhere. Rap music. It's all beat and all talk.
By the mid-1980s, the music scene in Long Beach was vastly different from back home in Mississippi.
But right now, all around us, and so compelling you never miss the fact there's no melody, is a music that is all beat, strong beat, and talk. It's rap music, and it sounds like this.
Once upon a time, not long ago, everybody had on their radio.
While Nate began to dabble in hip-hop music on his own, it didn't become his main interest up until he joined Poly High School, where he met two people who would forever change his life.
1986, we was in at Poly High School. Nate was in the 12th grade, I was in the 10th grade. We was in a science class. So we was sitting in the back of the class, and I would beat on the tape, making beats and shit, and this nigga would be singing like other people's songs, right? But he would make them dirty. So he would like flip a nigga Luther Vandross song and sing some dirty shit. Nigga be laughing. Then we had 7th period together, which was PE. So we had a nigga that would beatbox. A nigga would beatbox, I would be rapping, and they would be singing along.
I knew Nate, you know, we from the neighborhood too, from King Park, like the churches and all that stuff. Nate was off a line.
Or was it Nate didn't like him?
Now, he used to like just, I guess you could say, try to bully me.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, he kept on till I finally was like, you know what's up?
Oh, you talking about Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah, alrighty.
You know, so we didn't fight, right. But after that, it was like he respected me from then on.
But before the three could do anything together, Nate decided to drop out of high school, and at the age of 17, he enlisted in the United States Marines. According to him, he joined the Marines to see if he was a man. He was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and served as an ammunition specialist. After 3 years abroad, Nate was discharged in 1989 and returned to the United States for good. Having proven his manhood, he reunited with his cousin Snoop and Warren G, who were increasingly focused on pursuing a professional career in music. While they tried to convince Nate to join them, for the time being, he faced different challenges. Back home, life was far from easy, and he soon found himself homeless on the streets of Long Beach after his family kicked him out. Around the same time, Snoop also found himself in a similar predicament, so the two decided to join forces, not in music, but in crime to survive. While they did whatever they could to get their next meal, music was always in the back of their minds. In 1990, Nate would finally give in and join forces with Warren and Snoop, together forming a group called 213.
I credit DJ Quick and Richie Rich from 415 them for, you know, their inspiration, because they was both out at that time, and that's what made us do it. We called ourselves 213 because we wanted to represent for all of Los Angeles, no matter where you from.
So 213 is at that time is you?
Me, Snoop, and Nate.
And Nate and Snoop.
Half Dead. Let me see. This all our homeboys that was with us was 213. It was a lot of us.
Nate joined the group as a vocalist/singer, while Warren G served as a producer/DJ/artist, and according to G-Funk documentary,
Snoop was just like the architect, the player, the pimp, the gangster, all in one.
We wasn't till we all came together and took all of those powers and maximized our strengths.
Warren and Snoop, who were rapping and knew each other from childhood, together gaining popularity in school hallways by participating in freestyle battles, with Snoop being the talent and Warren G as his hype man, already had a small buzz around their names in the city. So after finally locking in, the trio wasted no time and immediately got into the studio. More specifically, the back of a record store called VIP in Long Beach. According to Warren's interview with Passion Vice, the VIP record store was a place where the whole neighborhood would go to and listen to music because they always had the latest mixtapes. Once they figured out that they had a little studio in the back of the store, we were there all the time, trying to do demos in there. However, most of the time only one of them was let through, and in their case, it was Snoop. While he recorded a lot of his early music there, when it came down to 213, they had to find another spot to finish their first demo. So after a lot of hard work and determination, the group finished their first tape at their friend Money B's house. With their first tape in hands, the 213 started doing little shows around the neighborhood, performing at parties and small nightclubs. The previous buzz that they had, combined with the early G-Funk sound, quickly sent shockwaves around the city, and they were starting to generate some serious local hype. However, when it came down to branching out outside of the city, the group faced serious struggle. At the time, they were focused on getting noticed by somebody in the city and eventually land a record deal. While they visited numerous labels, showing them their demo in hopes of getting signed, they all rejected them, often responding with, "You're not something that we are looking for." These words were soul-crushing. Despite small crowds singing their songs word for word, 213 was still considered too small to take a chance on by many labels. Coupled with financial struggles and the lure of lucrative street business, the crew slowly began to lose hope.
But talking with Dog also on Off Air, he didn't see the bigger picture. Sometimes.
I mean, we would get caught up in different waves a little bit where we was getting a little rambunctious.
Dog told me this story. He said that he threw all his raps away. Like he was like, man, this ain't gonna happen, F it. And he said he threw them in the trash. Did that happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go in the trash and get his raps?
Yeah. Yeah, went right in there and grabbed them. It was, once again, it was just like, you know, this all we have right now to try to escape out of getting killed on the spot. You know, because we was, like I said, we was getting shot at, all kind of stuff. So this was our escape, the music. So he got tired of it because wasn't nothing happening. So he was just like, F this.
Right.
And I was like, nah. No, I got to get out the trash, and I brought it back, and I was like, we got to keep pushing, to just stay out the way, stay out of the way of these streets and follow this. I was protective of all of us, me, him, and Nate, just as far as how we was moving in Long Beach, you know, to try to stay out of the way of catching a bullet. You know what I mean? So that's the protective I was on, like, because I knew we had something. We just had to take time to try to get put on. Even with when we was in hustling, I was like, man, we got to stop. Just stop cold turkey. Let's just get jobs and just figure it out until we could get put on.
Because
somehow.
you believed in the music?
Yes. Yeah, we had a cold buzz.
Warren G's unwavering belief in their talent became a key factor in taking their careers to the next level and would eventually catch the attention of some of the biggest names in the music industry. While Nate and Snoop continued to hustle and tried to make ends meet on the streets of Long Beach, Warren was looking everywhere for an opportunity. After the trio wrapped up their first demo, Warren became so determined to break into the rap scene that he vowed to carry the demo with him everywhere he went, just in case the opportunity arose to show someone their music. As fate would have it, that opportunity did come along, though not in the most expected setting. You see, when Warren was about 7 years old, his father, Warren Griffin Jr., married a woman by the name of Verna Young, who already had 3 children from a prior marriage, one of whom was Andre Young, who would later become known as Dr. Dre. As the only son among 4 children, Warren was excited to finally have a brother, and the two developed a close bond growing up. By the time Warren formed 213, Dre had already achieved major success in the music industry as a member of NWA, with the impact of their landmark album Straight Outta Compton elevating the Los Angeles rap scene to new heights.
We rap about what's going on, what we like to do, and sex just happens to be a big part of what we're doing. Because I like the I don't know about you guys, I like Just think about it. Before NWA came out, there was nobody out there doing gangster rap. We're the inventors of gangster rap music. Yo, we want to thank all the mom and pop records. What do you call them? Yeah.
Just record stores. We want to
thank all the record retailers. We want to thank all the retailers for, selling our records, putting them in the stores when everybody else was scared to do it.
What you got to say, Yellow? He don't talk. He's what they call him, a mutant.
Being Dre's younger brother, Warren understood that getting noticed by Dre would be life-changing. But it wasn't as easy as one would expect. According to the G-Funk documentary, Warren took every opportunity, whether at family gatherings or any event where they crossed paths, to tell Dre about his rap group. He repeatedly highlighted Snoop Dogg as an extraordinary talent and even gave Dre one of their early demos to listen to. But his efforts were unsuccessful.
I used to tell him Snoop could rap. Like, Dre, Snoop could rap. You should listen to him. You know, because I know he was messing with artists back then. I was like, you listen to him, he dope. But he wasn't trying to hear that. Yeah, he was like, all right. He was like, oh, okay. Keep it pushing.
Dre didn't take it seriously at the time, with him likely more focused on his own solo career than on others' potential. However, everything changed one day when the two spoke on the phone to catch up, and Dre invited Warren to a bachelor party he was throwing for one of his producer friends, LA Dre. Before long, Warren G, Dre, and other industry figures were enjoying themselves at a party, celebrating LA Dre's new chapter. However, the night wouldn't pass without its setbacks, leading to a moment that would change not only Warren's life, but also the future of 213. During the event, the DJ ran out of fresh tracks and started repeating songs, leaving the crowd a little bit confused. Sensing an opportunity, Warren remembered that he had a 213 tape with him. Knowing this could be his big break, he offered it to LA Dre, who with nothing to lose, decided to give it a shot. The reaction was immediate. Everyone was instantly blown away.
I asked LA Dre, can I play this tape? You know, because they was kind of, you know, playing the same stuff a little bit. So he was like, all right. So he grabbed the tape and he started playing it. And he was like, this is hard. He was like, who is this? I said, that's me and my homeboy Snoop and Nate. And he was like, did you let Andre hear this?
Nate's phenomenal singing, Snoop's laid-back yet sharp raps, and Warren's flawless production captivated the entire room, and most importantly, Dr. Dre. He absolutely loved what he heard, and immediately asked to join him in the studio the very next day.
He heard it and he was like, who was this? I was like, it's me, Snoop, and Nate. And he was like, y'all come up to the studio on Monday.
Right.
And,
so Dre heard it that night?
Yeah, he heard it that
night. So you put it in. What gets his attention? He just hears it?
He heard it and was just like, you know, how he do that with his head. He was like, oh, who was this? And I was like, that's me, Snoop, and Nate.
Warren got home that night, excited to share the good news with the boys. However, at the time, the relationship between them, especially between Warren and Snoop, wasn't in the best place.
What do you tell Dog after that party that night?
I went home. At that time, you know, like that protective thing again. It was a lot of people that was just kind of like trying to separate us a little bit. And I was like pissed off at that. So me and him was kind of at it at that time. But I said, you know, and I'm gonna be, you know, I'm not gonna act stupid with Snoop. Right. Let me call his ass. So I called him and like, what's up? And he was like, what's up? I was like, I want to talk to you because Dre wants us to come to the studio on Monday. And he was just like, nigga, I ain't trying to hear that. And then boom, he hung the phone up on me. And I called him back. I said, look, man, I said, please let me call him on the three-way. And you talk to him and we go from there. Right. So called him and I was like, Andre, I got Snoop on the phone. Would you tell him that you want us to come to the studio on Monday? And he was like, this ain't Dre. And he was like, this is Dre. And then he was like, kind of like, oh.
Right.
Like,
I ain't gonna hang this one up.
Yeah.
After finally getting their chance to work with Dre, the 213 wasted no time and immediately started working on some music. According to Warren, at the time, they had no idea that they were working on an album that would forever be solidified as one of the greatest albums of all time, and instead, were just having fun in the studio, recording music, and just generally having a good time. While the group consisted of 3 members, Dre was particularly interested in Snoop and was doing his best to try and help him make it into the industry. A couple of years after the group's formation, in 1992, Dr. Dre released his legendary album, The Chronic, which featured an appearance from Snoop Dogg, who already made his debut on Deep Cover's soundtrack, and a debut feature from Nate Dogg on the song titled These Nuts. The track marked the first official appearance of 213, as Warren G was also featured in the now infamous intro, and would also be later referenced in one of Snoop's biggest singles of his debut album, Doggy Style, named What's My Name.
Hey, did what's your name get at you yesterday?
these nuts.
Aw, shut up, nigga.
Nate's trademark singing, complementing the new gangster rap sound of G-Funk, was well received by critics and subsequently got him signed to Dr. Dre's label, Death Row Records, in 1993. Snoop would also get signed to Death Row as the main talent of the group, and the same year released his debut solo album, the absolute West Coast classic, Doggy Style. The album was an immense success for Snoop, catapulting his career to the next level, with Nate also getting some of the shine due to his prominent singing on the track, which took their brotherhood to the next level, titled Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None. With all of their careers moving at different pace, the 2 and 3 tried to stick up for one another and help out each other with their careers. Snoop understood that he was the main focus for Dr. Dre and the rest of Death Row, with the whole marketing budget being targeted towards his success, so he insisted in helping out his homies by getting Nate Dogg to appear on Doggy Style, and Warren G working behind the scenes, producing, and helping to write songs. However, while Snoop and Nate secured a deal with Death Row, Warren G was sort of left behind by the executives and had to find his own way into the industry. Suge didn't want to sign Warren as he didn't see anything special in him, often labeling him as any other guy.
Find out, or why weren't you signed to Death Row when everybody else was moving through Death Row?
I don't know if it was because me and Suge used to bump heads a little bit in different things. Like, for instance, it was one incident where a constituent of mine had went and told him that I told him not to sign the contract.
Right.
You know, get a lawyer to look at that contract before you sign it.
But you would tell your friend anyway, though, right?
Yeah, I did. I told my friend that, and another of one of my another constituent went and said that Warren told not to sign the paperwork. So he was like, "Hey, blood, where Warren at?" And I'm like,
"Is that Suge?"
Yeah.
You hear that? You hear that down the hallway?
I took off. Look, he came out the I ran, and cause I'm thinking there was some stairs. I forgot the stairs was the other way. So I'm hitting the elevator, trying to get.
It's like that scary movie with the white girl. Like,
yeah, he called me at the elevator. It was me and my homeboy Cisco. He called me at the elevator and just grabbed me, threw me on the bam. Blood, you told them not to sign that contract? Swear to God, I told him on my mama. I told him, I said, look, you don't get your hands off me, I'm gonna call my brother and I'm calling all my homeboys. And he let me go. You know, and the guy I had with me, Cisco, he's a gunner, but I wouldn't have wanted nothing to happen.
Right, but you knew he was.
You know what I mean? But he was a gunner.
Nate, who was now a member of Death Row roster, was also facing issues with the label. While his extraordinary sound was a breath of fresh air, the label unfortunately didn't focus on him, treating him more like a backup dancer rather than a legitimate rapper, which led to his continued struggle to make a living from music. This meant that he had to get back to making money on the streets in order to financially support himself. During this time, Nate resorted to doing small-time robberies around the city, which included robbing a check changer shop and Taco Bell in San Pedro. He got caught for both of the robberies. However, luckily for him, he was later acquitted of all charges and allegedly bailed out by Suge.
Nate Dogg had then 5 Taco Bell robberies on camera.
He was on camera 5 times robbing Taco Bell.
I paid $250,000 to get beat before he won't go to prison. Everybody had their situations where they both went to prison, and nobody went.
Eventually, Warren G managed to land a deal with at the time financially struggling label, Def Jam, and asked Nate for help on his debut single. While going against the wishes of Suge Knight, Nate cooperated with his day one, and in 1994, Warren G released a debut single of his upcoming debut album, Regulate G-Funk Era, titled Regulate.
Hit the east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G.
The song was a massive hit, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and catapulting careers of both Warren G and Nate Dogg to the next level. The success of the single served as a bold statement from Warren to Suge Knight, who initially didn't believe in his talent. Now, Warren had one of the biggest singles in the country, bruising Suge's ego and prompting him to repeatedly try to separate the two friends. He was also angry at Nate because in his eyes, Nate was a part of Death Row and should have never worked with someone he had no interest in signing. Fueled by the success of the track, Nate Dogg released a single of his own titled One More Day, inspired by his days spent behind bars, further fueling the hype around his name. The song served as a soundtrack for Snoop Dogg's film Murder Was the Case and was received with widespread critical acclaim. Without any support from the label and against all odds, both Nate and Warren were proving to be the real deal, showing everyone that they weren't just backup dancers or mere supporting acts, but full-fledged musicians. With so many back-to-back successful singles, Nate was more than ready to release an album. However, Suge Knight had different plans. Originally, Warren G's Regulate was intended to serve as the lead single for both artists' debut albums, as well as the Above the Rim soundtrack after Suge Knight and Def Jam CEO Russell Simmons reached an agreement. However, Suge refused to let Nate release an album, pushing that idea further away into oblivion. Nate was left with nothing else to do but to continue doing features and appear on other people's songs. Nate's and Suge's relationship, to no surprise, was in a horrible state. According to the stories, Nate didn't trust anyone at the Death Row offices, allegedly even carrying a gun whenever he had a meeting, and wore a bulletproof vest.
He never went there without his pistol. He said, when I go there, I handle my business, and that's it.
I seen Nate putting on a bulletproof vest, and I'm like, hold on, player, what we going to the studio? Or gonna go to Iraq? What's up? What kind of studio is this where we got to put bulletproof vests on and walk in? I mean, how can we even work around this type of environment?
Man, I've never been to Death Row Studios without my gun. Never knew what to expect. Was famous for applying the old mafia tactics. And you instill fear in everybody by, and one person, I will excuse my language, but I mean, so we in there in the room, and the guy just walks in. He wants to, he has no idea we're in the middle of a meeting. He wants a record deal. He walks in and he says he know how to rap. So Suge says, okay, rap. If we don't like what you do, we gonna kick your ass. He said maybe 3 words and they just lit his ass up. Yeah.
Moreover, same as Suge, he was no pushover, and when needed, he voiced his opinion and stood for what he thought was the right thing. The relationship only continued to deteriorate further after the 1994 Billboard Music Awards, where Warren G and Nate Dogg were asked to perform Regulate. According to the story, by this point, Suge was so opposed to Warren G that he forbade anyone at the Death Row offices from working with him unless he got paid, and this event was no exception. Suge told Nate that he couldn't perform together with Warren and allegedly made it a no-negotiable matter.
1994 Billboard Awards, they asked us to do Regulate. Suge told Nate he couldn't perform with me. I had my people there. He wasn't trying to be the aggressors, you know, but at the same time, wasn't nothing gonna happen to Nate, because that's my homeboy.
However, as mentioned, Nate always stood for what he felt was the right thing.
I just hit the east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. See the car full of girls, ain't no need to tweet. All of you skirts know what's up with 213.
The relationship only continued to go downhill after the infamous 1995 Source Awards, after which Nate expressed his disappointment in Suge's actions that night, later commenting on the situation in an interview saying, "And I thought to myself, why would you do that?"
And one other thing I'd like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
With their relationship being as rocky as it is, the approval for his debut album seemed to be completely fading away. While by 1996, Nate already had more than a couple of successful singles and collaborations under his belt, there was still no green light from Suge Knight. He continued to use Nate for his melodic features, and ever since 1994, continued to push the album further away. The same year, Nate once again ran into problems with the law and was convicted of a drug offense in Los Angeles County. Despite all of this, he also managed to collaborate with Tupac on his All Eyes on Me album, appearing as a featured artist on 2 tracks, All About You and Scandalous.
No matter where I go, I see the same.
While Nate didn't have a problem with being a featured artist, later even claiming that he wanted to become a singer with the most features, the album was still his main priority, not only for a complete artistic freedom and self-expression, but also in order to satisfy his financial needs. After all, Nate was left in a pretty weird spot, because despite having multiple successful singles and a lot of hype around his name, he was still yet to release an album. After more than 3 years after the success of Regulate, Death Row Records finally approved the release of Nate Dogg's solo debut album, titled G-Funk Classics Volume 1. The album was eventually released in 1997, featuring appearances from a lot of famous acts that he previously collaborated with, as well as one of his boys from 213, Snoop Dogg, appearing on a single titled Never Leave Me Alone. Unfortunately, what seemed like a big step forwards was yet another setback, since Death Row Records decided to completely ignore the rollout, and after just 3 weeks of its release, they completely discontinued the album and removed it from sales. Fed up with all of it, Nate Dogg had finally had enough, and after so many years of being done dirty, this being the last straw, he officially quit Death Row Records. While he was extremely mad with the whole situation, Nate understood that there was no time to be sorry for himself, and right after leaving the label, he decided to put all of his energy into music, creating a catalog of songs which would ultimately become a part of his real debut release, G-Funk Classics Volume 1 and 2. In collaboration with his own record label, Dog Foundation Records and Breakaway Entertainment, the album was released on July 21st, 1998, combining the first volume, which was recorded during his tenure at Death Row, and the second one, recorded right after he left. To this day, the album notably stands the test of time, as Nate Dogg's vocals and his ability to touch more sensitive topics, such as vulnerability and loneliness, perfectly encapsulates the sound of G-Funk, leaving all of us with an absolute must-listen album from the West Coast Classics. If you're a fan of Nate Dogg's sound and are aching to hear more of his music, this album is a perfect place to start. If we take a look at the album songs, the first volume, which was recorded during his days at Death Row, has a lot of features. However, all of those features came from Death Row Records artists. When he finally got back the freedom to add whoever to his album that he wanted, he absolutely wasted no time, and in the second volume added the man who Suge was so desperately trying to keep him away from, the one who was always there from the start, the one and only Warren G.
Do it better like this two-man crew. They say we one here to quitters. Now what y'all gonna do?
However, despite its longevity, the album only reached number 58 on the Billboard 200 and sold around 33,000 copies in the first week. While to a person who just came in the game, these numbers wouldn't be so bad, Nate had already experienced some mainstream success prior to his debut, and with Warren and Snoop selling millions of records and getting their album certified multiple times platinum, Nate was understandably upset. Once again at Crossroads, Nate continued to be a warrior, and he understood that something has to change. According to his brother, Nate understood his potential as a featured artist, taking everybody's hooks to absolutely new levels of tightness, so keeping that in mind, Nate set out on a new mission to fully capitalize off of that. From 1998 to 2001, Nate Dogg appeared on numerous successful collaborations, including working with Dr. Dre, Mos Def, Ludacris, Corrupt, Fabulous, Xzibit, Warren G, and many more, eventually getting himself crowned as the king of hooks.
In different area code.
Despite the success of his features, Nate was still silently working on an album and was now determined to see some mainstream success with it. However, before releasing it, Nate was yet again facing legal issues. You see, all the success from his features made Nate Dogg a really big superstar, and with a lot of attention also came a lot of women. In total, Nate fathered 9 children with multiple baby mamas, and that caused him many headaches. According to the stories, Nate was a really great father who always made sure to visit all of his children regularly and never missed any important event, regardless of his busy schedule. However, the constant drama, combined with his heavy usage of alcohol, was starting to cause him not only health and addiction problems, but also legal troubles. According to the people closest to him, at the peak of his career, Nate was always carrying a bottle of Hennessy with him, drinking in excessive amounts, and often losing his temper.
3 bottles of Hennessy. 1 bottle was to sit in a limo for everybody else. Other bottle, he's put behind the seat when he leaves the club. The other bottle, he opened right there and started drinking at the house.
Nate recognized that he had 2 sides to himself. And the way he described it to me is that, Rod, I got an angel on this shoulder and a devil on this shoulder. And depending on where I am, what mood I'm in, or what's going on, the bigger voice gets the attention.
When he drank, he would start tripping out. They would call him, his trip out name was Buddy Love. And he'd be like, you don't want to see me when I turn into Buddy Love, trust me.
Nate Dogg was cool, but when Buddy Love came out, it was a whole different beast. Lord have mercy.
When he flipped that switch, he no joke. You know, however you want, he gonna give it to you.
Nate had a temper. Okay? You don't want to get Nate hot.
Due to his short temper, on June 17, 2000, Nate was arrested for allegedly assaulting his former girlfriend and setting her mother's car on fire. He was charged with kidnapping, domestic violence, terrorist threats, and arson. With the help from Dr. Dre, he posted a $1 million bond, and after pleading no contest to illegal gun possession by a felon, receiving $1,000 fine and 3 years of probation, the charges were eventually dropped. While the situation from a legal standpoint resolved fairly quickly, it marked the beginning of Nate's many legal troubles. Half a year after his arrest, Nate released his second studio album, titled Music and Me. Finally, after years of struggle and going against the grain, the album was a great commercial success. While it only reached number 32 on the US Billboard 200, it peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Top R&B/Hip Hop Album chart, eventually selling close to 500,000 copies.
I got love for my homies who be rolling with me.
The album once again featured A-list guest appearances such as Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Ludacris, Jermaine Dupri, Fabulous, and more. Apart from the commercial standpoint, the album was once again praised by the critics due to its production and Nate's beautiful G-Funk vocals. Around the same time, Nate would also go on and participate in a celebrity basketball game, raising funds for the victims of the September 11th attacks, eventually scoring 12 points. Only 4 months after his new album release, on April 12, 2002, Nate's tour bus was stopped just outside of Kingsman, Arizona, where police managed to find 2 pistols and 4 ounces of weed. He was booked and later released on $3,500 bond. The next month, the weapon charges were dropped for his guilty plea on a drug charge and was sentenced to probation, community service, and drug counseling. With a lot of ups and downs, Nate once again turned to music and continued to appear on other people's work, most notably working with 50 Cent, Mobb Deep, and Eminem.
Girl, it's easy to love me now.
After years of pursuing their solo careers, the 213 reunited and immediately jumped into what they knew best. On August 17, 2004, the group released their first and only album called The Hard Way, which debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200, selling almost 100,000 copies in the first week, with Rolling Stone calling 213 an excellent G-Funk era revival supergroup. However, by this point, Nate's drinking was starting to get seriously out of hand. While the first set of problems due to his heavy drinking began more than 5 years earlier, now it was seriously starting to impact his life and mental clarity. Fueled by his drunk persona, Buddy Love, Nate was once again arrested in July of 2006 and charged with misdemeanor aggravated trespassing, telephone harassment, battery assault, dissuading a witness from reporting a crime, and breaking a restraining order after he broke into one of his girlfriend's houses and caused a scene. According to the story, Nate was engaged to this girl, and during his engagement, he gave her a 4-carat ring. After their relationship went south, he wanted to get his ring back and decided to pay her a visit after a few bottles of cognac. Once he got there, he immediately started to pressure her and demand to get his ring back. However, the former girlfriend wasn't alone and had her boyfriend present at the home. Once Nate's eyes caught him, he ran up in the house and knocked him out.
And the boy said something to him and Nate knocked him out. I was like, man, you can't just run up in nobody's house and put hands on nobody, man. They can sue you, man, and you can go to jail. He was drunk, you know. But the girl ended up letting it go.
He later pleaded guilty to trespassing and battery, which caused him to lose his gun ownership rights for 10 years, receiving 3 years of probation, and was ordered to complete a domestic violence intervention program. However, the problems only continued to pile on, as not even a year later, Nate, who was driving with his then girlfriend, got involved in a horrible car accident, with the car flipping multiple times. While his girlfriend made it out okay, Nate was seriously injured, getting a lot of staples in his head. Unfortunately, instead of following doctor's orders, Nate refused to stay at the hospital and complete the treatment for his many injuries, including internal bleeding, checking out as fast as possible in order to do a show in Las Vegas. This would ultimately be his worst decision yet made, as the complications from the crash, in combination with his excessive alcohol use, would ultimately lead to devastating consequences. Just a couple of months after the car crash, on December 19, 2007, Nate would suffer a massive stroke, leaving the left side of his body weakened. While neither his cognition nor his voice were affected, he still had trouble doing a lot of day-to-day tasks, often resorting to other people for help. Snoop Dogg would come and visit him in the hospital during this time. Unfortunately, the picture that he saw was nothing short of heartbreaking.
My wife went to go visit him, and my wife had said something to him. She was like, I thought you said you broke up with her. And he was like, nah, I can't break up with her yet. I still love her. And I didn't know what the hell they was talking about. Then I looked down, and there was a bottle of Hennessy right by his leg. And I'm like, okay.
Despite all of his problems, Nate managed to get back on his feet, and after checking out of the hospital once again, he decided to form a choir. You see, up to this point, while his mother did support him throughout his career, she didn't listen to any of his music and often talked with him about his lyrics, being disapproving of the message that he conveys. Nate, who dearly loved his mother, wanted to keep her close during this period of his life, so he decided to change his ways and include more of her in this new chapter. While simultaneously living 3 lives, leading a church choir, struggling with his health, and being a superstar in the face of the public, Nate still continued to indulge in drinking alcohol and smoking weed. Despite his family's best attempts at getting him help, he continued to do what he believed was right for him, often saying, "Let me do me." In 2008, Nate married his then girlfriend, LaToya Calvin. However, the marriage didn't last long, and after a couple of weeks together, the pair quickly parted ways, or so it seemed. On June 23, 2008, Nate was yet another time charged with 2 felony counts of criminal threats and 1 count of stalking after he was caught allegedly threatening his estranged wife by emails and chasing her on Interstate 405. He pleaded not guilty, and later, as the alleged victim had failed to contact prosecutors, the charges were dropped. By this point, Nate's health was only continuing to worsen, as his high blood pressure and the intensity of his lifestyle, in conjunction with his alcohol problems, once again caught up with him, and this time, the outcome was devastating. On September 12, 2008, Nate suffered another stroke, completely paralyzing his body, taking away his ability to move and communicate. He was completely confined to the bed, using only his eyes and a piece of board with letters to communicate, leaving behind everything that he ever did. According to his manager, mentally, he was all there, so witnessing of his demise, so to speak, physically was very painful to watch, and it was over a long period of time, so it was very painful. During an interview, Warren G would also remember the painful state of Nate Dogg by saying, "He never showed no sign of nothing, except for when I went to go and see him when he was sick, when he had the stroke. When I went to go see him, we talked and stuff, and I was talking to him because he could hardly talk, and when it came time for me to leave, he got kind of emotional, and I even got emotional at the same time. I started crying, but that's my dog,
His little hat on. They put him in a wheelchair. I push him outside, and I'm just talking to him like, you know, I love you, cuz I got your back. Just giving him, making my dude feel like he's supposed to feel in the moment.
I went and seen him and sat down with him. I would just talk about a bunch of stuff, just so hard to where I started crying. And I would tell him, man, I'll be back, man. You'll be all right. We're gonna get you through this, man. I gotta bounce, but I'll be back, man. I'll be back.
After 2.5 years of living his life completely immobile, on March 15, 2011, Nathaniel Dwayne Hale, better known as Nate Dogg, unfortunately passed away at the age of 41 in Long Beach, California, following complications of multiple strokes. The music world was devastated. Many famous acts, including his day one friends such as Warren G and Snoop Dogg, with more than 500 fans attended his funeral in Long Beach, sharing one last ride with the royalty of G-Funk. Others took to social media to express their grief and pay tribute for the loss of Nate, with 50 Cent sharing a message on Twitter saying, "Rest in peace, Nate Dogg. The rap world just lost a great legend. This is your time." Unfortunately, Nate Dogg's time was sadly cut short, but his ability to transform mediocre songs into West Coast classics with just a touch of his voice has forever solidified his name in the music history as the king of hooks.